Hey yo, think fast.
DeadHatz.
Hey guys, DeadHatz here. And if you watch my channel, you know that way back when I covered the Macabre Experiments, an excellent web series created by a guy named Stuffy Studios. Now, I was gonna wait for him to release a bit more content before I take another look back at it, but it seems he's at a stopping point for the series for now, as he works on his Malediction series, which is a game you can play on YouTube, which I highly recommend you do now. Link to his channel in the description. Since he's at a stopping point, I decided I might as well just catch up on the video, so then when he starts it up back again, if he does, then we're all caught up. I don't have to worry about any other videos I may have missed. So here we go, another look into the Macabre Experiments. And of course, it goes without saying, if you haven't seen my previous video on it, you kind of have to watch that before going into this one, because I'm going to assume you have. So go check that out. I'll put a card in the video and a link in the description. Now straight into it. This next video is Macabre Experiments 5, Jeff the Killer. If you don't know who Jeff the Killer is, really? Well, quick rundown. Kid gets bullied and he goes psycho and kills his family and his bullies. That's really as basic as it gets. The writing, from what I remember, is not that good. But luckily this breathes some new life into it. Now, it once again starts off with the narrator character who works for PE Protective Agency. And basically they talk about how it reiterates how these videos are supposed to be private and should not be shared, and if you are not supposed to be watching it, you shouldn't watch it. This does get important later on in the video, but we'll touch back on it when we get to that point. For now, we actually go back to Rowan Withers, which, if you don't remember, is the son of Curtis Withers from the Suicide Mouse Macabre Experiments video. He's the son of the boss that Diane is afraid of talking to before Diane, dies. Not only that, he was also the one who had found Diane's body along with the other victim, who I am still not entirely sure who it is, but I have a little bit of a theory on who it might be later on. I'll talk about it. Anyways, in this, we see the following phone call. After this phone call, we see it from Rowan's perspective as he came outside to talk to the strange guy. He has a webcam in one hand, that's how we're able to see it, and a gun in the other. And basically, he's approaching this person, who we're not sure it is, but I'm pretty sure it's saying it's Jeff the Killer that he's approaching. Judging from what happens on later in the video, we can assume he ended up killing Jeffrey Woods, Jeff the Killer, outside his house. And so because of that, he actually gets arrested by the police and charged with murder. However, one interesting thing that happens is after he's killed him, the video says that Rowan is now all alone, as that was his only friend he had just killed, and for some reason his dad is out of the picture. Now, why he would lose his father is still something I'm trying to figure out when that exactly occurred. Perhaps his father had left him at this point, or perhaps Jeff had killed his dad before he came there. One thing I want to think is that one body that I could not identify in the Suicide Mouse video may have been, Curtis Withers, his dad, who ended up being the second victim, which may not be 100% correct. That's still a theory, just because of the fact that his dad's body type, as shown previously, looks way different than that of the one found later in that video, but it could be an explanation as to why Rowan is now all alone and, how that's really bad. And now, back to the video, we see an attendance check of sorts of different macabres in containment. The first macabre we see being Melissa Stockholm, aka Joyless, who I did a little bit of research to see what creepypasta they're from, and I think it might be the Melissa the Heartless creepypasta, I don't actually read the creepypasta. I just think Heartless, Joyless, both named Melissa. You know, maybe it's probably the same thing. I personally haven't read it, so that's why I'm still kind of thinking, yeah, that's probably it. The reason I didn't look too deep into it, just because this character doesn't come back later on. This is just kind of listing them out because they can do a big reveal later. If Melissa or any of the other characters I mentioned do come up in another Macabre Experience video, obviously I'll reread their creepypasta beforehand. Back to it, the next one we see in containment still is Dakota Norman, aka The Abomination. Another one that I couldn't find. I think it's from the Abomination Man creepypasta. Like I said, I didn't take time to exactly read the creepypasta because these characters aren't really that important right now. They're, like I said, just set up. Next up is going to be Jack Nichols, aka Eyeless Jack. This one I actually have read, and it actually calls him what he's called in this story, so there's no kind of digging to figure out which creepypasta that is, because it's Eyeless Jack. And then finally the last one being Hal Gordman, also aka The Hollowed, which is another one that I didn't hear the creepypasta from, but I'm guessing it's from the Hollowed creepypasta, which is another one I haven't heard of, but if it comes up later, I'll obviously read it and do more digging. But the most important thing is that all these macabres are still in containment. However, once we get to Jeffrey Woods, we can see that he has breached containment and escaped. Now, whether that was Jeffrey that was killed by Rowan, as it's still not confirmed, it likely is. That's probably something we'll have to see. But we do broke containment. It was able to kill that one agent in microbes, and also perhaps went back to Rowan afterwards to get an easy kill. Next up, it shows like a blue exposition video similar to the one in microbes, except this one it's talking about special suits that are supposed to protect you from microbes and the effects they can put onto you. And so that kind of goes back into the beginning, why it's important not to view these videos if you're not supposed to, is because just even viewing these things can infect you. That means you really should have a special suit like that to protect you from that. And so that's why they don't want it getting out, because just by viewing these macabre videos, you could get infected by microbes. So gotta tread lightly there. However, one important thing of note is it gives long text with a very fast text-to-speech voice reading it, which I'll read out now.
By entering our facility, you are held responsible for any inconvenience caused by your foolishness or inability to handle our work environment. Please refer to the instructional guides and handbook for more information. We thank you for taking part in this wonderful facility and look forward to seeing how you positively impact our company. Please note that any sign of disobedience may result in immediate experimentation or punishment. We will not tolerate misbehavior during work hours.
Now, this concept in itself is kind of expected. You know, you mess up at a job, obviously you're going to get punished, you're going to get fired, or certain privileges taken away. You know, that's kind of expected with jobs. However, what makes this extra terrifying is because we know where this is happening, we don't know what that punishment could be. And then the fact that immediate experimentation is also a likely risk of happening if you're foolish enough to mess around or mess something up is even more terrifying, because if you mess up and get infected by the microbes, they're not going to try and cure you. They're going to experiment on you to see what effects you can give other people, and etc. And so it's just terrifying, because even if you do manage to retain your memory, you're only slightly infected, you will spend the rest of your life on that facility being constantly experimented on and tested on for the rest of your lives, with that being your only human interaction. And then finally, the video ends informing us that Rowan was arrested for murder, which I already kind of touched on earlier, but that information was given at the end of the video. I just mentioned it earlier. And now, Macabre Experience number 5. I think I might have said 5 for Jeff the Killer, but it's actually 4. And so this one is actually about one of my favorite creepypastas of all time, which is Candle Cove. If you know what Candle Cove is, it's basically a story written by Chris Straub, who, if you don't know, is actually the creator of Local 58. So, you know, it's going to have some good writing and like good details in it then. But basically, it's about this kid show that kids would watch that they remember from their childhood, except to any adult watching it, it looks like the kids are just looking at static, so they're not really watching like a real show. That's just the most basic rundown. You should definitely go read this one. It's pretty short, and it's actually pretty well written. It actually holds up. Basically, we see the protective agency once again trying to figure out more about this macabre in particular. And what they do is they actually anonymously reach out to people who've said they've read it, probably the people on the forum from the original creepypasta. And here are their accounts. One of them, I believe the first one is from a parent, and the other two are from two people who've actually seen it. But this is what they had to say.
When you mentioned the name, all of it hit me. I had forgotten about and how strange it was. I vaguely remember my daughter, Laura, sitting in front of the television with an amused look on her face. But when I looked at the TV, all I saw was static. Nothing else. It was bizarre and it freaked me out. When I would ask why she was watching it, she would tell me that it was Candle Cove and how much she loved the show. I never saw it, just static. So creepy. I appreciate you reaching out to me, although you are anonymous. I hope you can get to the bottom of this.
Holy crap. I forgot about that. I believe that show ran for a while, but ended when I started watching it. I was probably around 7 or so at the time. Man, this is a blast from the past. I remember coming home from school and watching it till my dad came home from work at 6. Good times. I was always scared of that skeleton, though. I had nightmares about that thing.
I believe the skeleton was the main villain of the show. His name was the Skin Taker. I remember clearly because my older sister made up this stupid thing saying he would come into my room and steal my skin if I went to bed late. I didn't stay up late after that.
After these accounts, we are shown a TV with static on it until the screen says, "What did he look like?" After that, it shows some text that I still can't understand. We actually see it again at the end of the video, and I still couldn't tell what the last word was. Here's the image, but it's my something. I really don't know what it looks like. It could be like my son or my mom, or I don't know. I really stared at this. I haven't checked the comments section to see if anyone had any idea, and I didn't see any comments about it, sadly. So if you guys want to help me out with this one, it says my something. I'll put it big screen real quick. Yeah, do you know what that says? I'm struggling with this one. It cuts to another blue screen exposition video similar to the one in the microbes. And basically, it talked about where an agent named Sanson had actually broken into the Macabre Labs facility, and they found a broken vial with a microbe in it known for being able to infect children and basically make them see hallucinations and stuff like that. And not only that, but it would also make him more attentive, which kind of makes the second account make more sense as to why he can't wait to get home, and he was literally glued to the screen until his parents came home. What's interesting though is right before the text-to-speech was about to give some important info about those fully succumbing to it begin to rip off their blank, it cuts off. And so I think it was going to say eyes. I've seen a lot of comments on the video say, oh, it's saying it's going to rip off its skin because, you know, the Skin Taker character from the show. I don't think that's correct. Frankly, that's just because the Skin Taker, you know, that does make sense. But if you look at the image that it shows during that exposition, the eyes are covered. So I think it was going to say rip out their eyes. Plus, I have a little more proof to prove that on later on, but I'll get into it when I get there. However, it then cuts back and forth until finally we actually get to see a little bit of the Candle Cove show. It cuts away from that after having a bit too much static, and in this we see the Dark Man, or Ethan as I call him, because I think it's Ethan, but in case he's not, I'll still refer to that character as the Dark Man. He kind of interrupts the show, and then we are greeted with this. Now, if you're wondering what that mess of like stuff at the end was, with all the stuff flashing back and forth, I managed to go through frame by frame. A lot of it is the creepypastas I talked about earlier, like Jeffrey Woods. Hi guys, Editor Hats here, and there's something really important I have to add that I did not mention. In all the different frames, I failed to notice, I noticed that there is a wanted or missing poster for Ben. However, I failed to notice that his last name was Macabre, thus confirming that Ben is actually the son of Ethan Macabre, something I touched on in the last video as one of my theories. Obviously, since I didn't notice at the time of recording, I won't talk about it for the rest of this video, but I did want to just pause to show you here I did notice now, and yes, I'm very happy that that confirms my theory that Ben is indeed Ethan Macabre's son, which is a really interesting and neat twist on this little story here. But alright, yeah, I just wanted to point that out, and I'll put you guys back on the video now. You shouldn't have done that, which is a reference to Ben Drown. But then it showed that one image again upside down where it says my blink, and I don't know what that second word is, so like I said, if you know that, please tell me. But I believe I also saw Jane the Killer in one of the frames, so you know, it just showed a bunch of creepypastas that obviously would be like other macabres or microbes that we have seen or maybe will see throughout the series. And now for Cartridge Discovery. This is actually a little secret video for those who stayed at the end of the Candle Cove video, and in this basically it's more like a teaser. It kind of just hints that Samson and Hannah, who are both agents for the FE Protective Agency, found a cartridge that had somehow eluded them. They lost this cartridge, but they do know that when they opened the cartridge and saw what was on it, it was a game cartridge for Sonic, which could lead into either a Sonic.exe Macabre or maybe a different Sonic creepypasta, we don't know. But yeah, I just got the worst news ever. Only a small percentage of you guys are actually subscribed. You don't have to, but I'd appreciate it. And I'm going to keep this ad as short as possible. So I'm going to just quickly rapid fire check out my visions, check out Muerte Collective, check out my other socials in the link at the bottom. And at least subscribe or like or something. Like, come on, if you're good this far, you're enjoying it. I hope. Yeah. Listen to the man. Okay, enough of that. Now on to the theories and discussion section of this video. Like I said, if you watch my first video, you already know who I think the Dark Man is, how it's Ethan, and all that. So we're going to mainly focus on what these new episodes kind of bring into the series and how that fits in with what I said last time or anything that might have changed from last time. So first, since we just finished talked about it, let's start with the Candle Cove ideas. I want to go back to the strange conversation between Percy and the Skin Taker at the end of the video, where the Skin Taker's like, oh, it'll all be over soon. And then Percy instead says to him, you're not real, go away. And then it's interesting because the Skin Taker is still calm about it. And he says to him, well, you know, neither are you. And it almost seems as if these are like two people trapped inside Candle Cove, aware that everything happening around them is a cartoon. It's all false. So maybe after a kid is fully succumbed to the effects of that microbe, maybe it like steals their soul or something to put in the video. Because, you know, these are supposed to be kind of like inanimate object if it's infecting like the airwaves, but since we have these people who are either the sentient cartoon characters or people's souls sucked into the show, and every time a new soul is added, a new character is created, right? I mean, that's just kind of my theory for it. I think that makes sense, especially when the Skin Taker himself says not anymore, implying that maybe they were once real people. And so that's just kind of something interesting. That like the severity of the microbe or macabre can affect how much you've lost it or gone crazy and how much you remember about your previous self. And the face it shows towards the end, I think may have been whoever was Percy before they're in Candle Cove, because it also says I miss you, and the fact that the eyes are missing, which further proves my idea that he was saying they begin to rip out their eyes and not their skin. Because I mean, come on, is that not more proof than the Skin Taker take off your skin theory? And so I don't know, it's just a little something to think about, that basically depending on what you get hit by, you will either fully completely lose it, such as Ethan with the macabre microbe, the Dark Man, you know, he kind of, you know, he's using it for personal gain, probably monetary, and now he's gone full psycho, spreading these microbes wherever he goes. Then compared to like Ben from Ben Drowned or Percy and Skin Taker in Candle Cove, where they have basically still retained their memories, they know they're trapped, and they actively are trying to escape or seeking help. Or you could be kind of in the middle, like Jeff the Killer, who was still sentient enough to remember that Rowan was his friend, but not enough to be able to control himself when he saw him, because I think he was most likely going to kill Rowan once he saw him, because he saw him as an easy target since he could easy contact for him. What is interesting though is how he wouldn't enter the house even after Rowan invited him. Maybe that was like part of the old Jeffrey Woods trying to hold him, the new Jeff the Killer, away from Rowan. That's just a kind of theory I have, where basically they just have these different levels of severity that depend how much you've lost yourself, and we kind of see examples of that throughout the series. And another interesting thing is, why did Rowan come back? Why has this guy been in 2 different episodes now with pretty important parts, and he's not just sitting in the background like, oh, he just happens to appear. The fact that he was directly involved with 2 different macabres live is pretty nuts to me. I'm thinking that This may signify that wherever Rowan lives is probably pretty close to the Macabre Labs location, or at least where they're being contained before they break out. So if we are able to find out where Rowan lives, we know that nearby there is the Macabre containment or Macabre Labs. That's just another thing to think about. For Rowan, his place in the story is still kind of up in the air, but I think that it at least gives us an idea. At least kind of gives us the idea that, okay, these are all happening in the same general area. And so that's just something to think about. And then my final theory and discussion, this one's more discussion, is who is making the blue exposition videos? We see in the Microbes video that they almost condemn the Macabre Labs. So we know it most likely isn't the Macabre Labs video. The video in Jeff the Killer video makes it seem almost like it's a training video for people working at Macabre Labs, or maybe those working in their containment. So it really makes me think that there's like a third party here, other than Macabre Labs and other than FE Protective Agency, almost like there's some other agency keeping them contained, and trying to secure them, make sure they're not breaking out. But like I said, the more I think about it, the more I really just get really confused about it, honestly, because it can't be these two. Does it have to be a new one? And one thing I kind of wanted to bring up was there's just kind of a reach, and not many people remember this, but SCP Foundation used to be in the realm of creepypastas. It wasn't like its own thing like it is nowadays. People used to kind of compare it to like the Grifter, where it's it's a secret facility that just it kill people. It used to be considered creepypasta, a short internet story, basically horror story. It used to be creepypasta. It's not anymore. It's totally their own thing now. But perhaps, maybe if they're in this universe, because they did used to be considered that, they're the ones keeping them contained, which would be a little crazy, but really freaking cool if that's the case. Just that we kind of bring back SCP like its roots before it became what it is today, and how it was like another like monster type thing. And so maybe they're containing the Macabres, and the Macabres are actually like SCPs. But like I said, that's a reach. That's just more like wouldn't that be cool type thing. I actually really don't know who's making the blue exposition videos, but that's just something I had to kind of inject in there, because I feel like, well, I mean, if we're going by old rules, then maybe these old rules stick, but it may not be likely. But likely. And that's really all the new videos have to offer. Like I said, the Cartridge one was more of a teaser. I'm just happy we were able to get a little more expansion on the lore itself. And of course, there is always a theory that there is no overarching story. This is just stuff Stuffy Studios is making for fun, and he's just making a little mini story to make it more fleshed out, rather than actually trying to tell a cohesive tale. Like I said, we'll have to wait and see. Right now, he's working on Malediction, which I have not gotten around to, Stuffy. I am going to do it soon. I'm going to play Malediction. If you don't know, guys, Malediction is a game you can play on YouTube. It's like a choose-your-own story, and I would really check it out, because I remember back when choose-your-own story videos on YouTube were more popular, so I'm just happy to see someone doing it again, and it's by one of the better content creators out there. So go check that out. I'm probably going to do it this week after this video or something. Check out all my socials. Please do consider subscribing, as it does help the channel. If you know anyone else who's interested in Macabre videos, or know someone who saw my last video but hasn't seen this one, share it to them, so that way they can kind of get more understanding and further discuss the series with me. I want to thank you guys if you stayed towards the end of the video, and yeah, until next time.